If you can hear me, say I in the chat section. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I can't hear you.
There you go. Can you hear me now, Fulaseva?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. It's like it's just the two of us. Yeah, just do people. Oh. Okay. Should we start now? Let's start. All right. So, welcome to YE Virtual Event Start Careers in Software Engineering. Welcome, everybody. I'm super excited to have you here, and I'm excited. Sorry for the careers in software engineering. So, basically, we're going to be talking about everything you need to know about software engineering before getting started. So, maybe you're a beginner or you just want to get started in the field. So, get your notes and your pen ready. Once again, I welcome you all. Joining us today is an amazing visionary whose mission is to make the world a better place. What makes him feel relevant? He ran the engineering for Xbox Group. For Xbox One launch at Microsoft, where he worked as a software engineering manager for 7 years, 6 months. Then he proceeded to be a principal software engineering manager at the same company, Microsoft. So then he was the senior director in July 2014. So he also worked on a portfolio of high-scale, high-performance web platform for Microsoft. That's so fascinating and so awesome, including Xbox.com, Microsoft.com, and MicrosoftStore.com. And he left Microsoft in April 2019 at like 4 years and good 10 months. Wow. So he spent 12 years and 4 months in total at Microsoft. So he later left Microsoft in April 2019 and he later continued his career at Google as an engineering leader in May 2019. So he's currently an engineering manager, a software engineer at Google, even up to date. I know someone is inspired. So today we'll be sharing with us everything you need to know about software engineering and how to get started. Please welcome Ankur Sinha. I hope I got the pronunciation. Ankur, it's good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. Can
Thank you
you
so much for having me.
can hear me? Right. So we have a few questions for you today.
Mhm.
First one, what's one thing you knew you wish what's one thing you wish you would have known before you began your career as a software engineer?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's a one that I think a lot of people should ask early on in their careers. Like I think one question that I wish I knew, earlier in my career would have been to focus a lot more on what I'm learning out of each role rather than what title I have or what level I have, and am I making enough money? Because I think in the field of software engineering, over a period of time, that progression does happen. But I think early in career, you have a lot more opportunity to learn a lot more, to explore, like go try different things, and be able to see what you like, what you don't like, what you want to build expertise in. So I wish, if I were to go give this advice to my younger self, I would basically go say, go explore more, go learn more, and let the titles and the money and the roles come by. They will happen, organically as you learn more. So focus on learning, focus on skilling up, as Emmanuel says, would be my advice.
Okay, thank you very much. So, to the next question, what are the skills required to become an expert in software engineering field? Like
Yeah.
soft skills and hard skills, everything.
Yeah, so I think this is a good one, and thank you, Pulaseva, for doing that distinction. I do think there's a distinction between what we call technical skills and what we call soft skills, and both are important and critical for you to succeed in the area of software engineering. So when I say technical skills, I mean things like computer programming, right? You need to know how to write a computer program, which could be in any programming language. There's a lot of variance and variety out there in the industry today of what you could do. So it doesn't have to be a particular language, but you should learn how to do computer programming. That's a key skill that you're going to need. There's a lot of options for learning that. Like you don't necessarily have to go to college to go study computer engineering. Like you could self-learn. There's a lot of courses available online. The internet is a great resource, for you to be able to learn programming as well. So programming is a key skill in that technical skills area. Designing software is another key skill. As you go beyond writing a program into writing an application or writing a system, you're going to need to think about how these different programs interact with each other, how they fit together, how they actually give you an experience that makes sense to your customer if you're building for a customer. So that notion of bringing different components together into a system, into a design that makes sense, that will function, but will also scale, will be performant, will be accessible, is important. So that aspect of design is really important. And maybe a third part of technical skills is as you start building software, you're going to need to have some notion of domain knowledge. So if you're building an application, let's say for a bank, you will need to understand some notion of how a banking system works, how a financial industry works. So that usually comes with experience. As you go work, it will come to you. But that also feels like an important aspect of skills / information that's beneficial. So in my mind, those are the three parts of technical learning: programming, system design, domain knowledge. Um, and then there are soft skills, which are incredibly important in software engineering because they are usually never a single person job. You are typically always working in a team. You're working with folks, you are working with a team of engineers, product managers, UX people, operations folks. So you need the skills of communication, like you need to have a good communication skill. You need to have collaboration skills. You need to be able to work well with each other. And you need to be able to work through what we call ambiguity, because as you build software, you will find things that you didn't plan for. You will encounter challenges that you were like, oh, I don't know how to solve it. So that notion of handling ambiguity is also a key part. So I would say for soft skills, communication, collaboration, and handling ambiguity would be my three.
Okay. So basically, you need technical skills like programming and system design. Then for the hard skill, you need good communication, good collaboration skill, and all right. Thank you very much. So to the next question, what are the trends in your field right now? Like, what are the latest trends?
Yeah, I think that if I can answer that question, I think there'd be maybe two categories. There's trends in the industry in general, and I think there are trends in software engineering specifically. I think the trends in the industry in general, you do see, if you, I don't know, go out to Google and search for key industry trends, you'll see things like, currently cloud is a big focus. A lot of big areas, big industries are moving to the cloud. So there's a big push towards cloud as a technology area. There's also a huge push towards AI ML, artificial intelligence slash machine learning, because a lot of standard tasks are being automated through artificial intelligence, machine learning. How can we get machines to think better and execute better as we train them, to make sure that they can execute the tasks we want them to do. There's plenty of trends. I think the industry has gotten so big that I'd be doing it this justice by calling out only a couple. There's probably really good and deep trends in each industry area. I'll pick an example. Like in databases, for example, there's a big push towards getting databases in the cloud and supporting this notion of multi-cloud. So you're not kind of baked into a particular cloud provider. So there's another aspect within the realm of databases that is a key trend. So there's a number of trends industry-wide that I think are continuing to evolve. In my mind, that is one of the key benefits of software engineering, which is these trends keep changing, they keep evolving. I can tell you when I started my career 20 years ago, a lot of these things were non-existent. So they have come to fore as at least I've gone through my career. So what that means is if I could turn it into advice, would be, a career in software engineering keeps you on your toes. You have to keep learning. You have to keep up with the pace as the industry moves. Like I can tell you, when I learned programming, the languages were very different. I learned programming in C. Now we're programming a lot more in Java, Golang, JavaScript. So the languages have differed. So I've had to continue learning. So one of the key aspects of software engineering trend to keep up with is this notion of lifelong learning. You have to keep up your skills as the industry evolves.
Okay, thank you very much. So, to the next question, what's one myth about your industry I want to debunk? Like, what's the common saying that people believe but it's not actually true about software engineering?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again, Fulaseva? I don't think I heard the complete sentence.
You not get me? Okay. I said, what's one myth about software engineering field? What's the common statement people believe is actually true to software engineering field, but it's not actually what it is in software engineering that I want to debunk?
I think it's interesting to think about. Like, I think a lot of people feel like you need to go to, have a computer science degree in software engineering in order to get a job. That's one, trend that has changed over time, where it's no longer a requirement. In many companies, they will ask for it, but if you have equivalent amount of experience, like if you've done, your own startup, you've done some programming on GitHub, you've created some applications, it is typically accepted as, a worthwhile substitute. So I would say one, myth or something that, people believe is true, that, you can find options around, is this notion of, you can actually substitute 4 years of degrees to, actual experience in the software industry by building software that can help you, land your next job. So that would be one. The other one I would say is this notion of, you have to focus on learning. Like you'll probably see me say this multiple times during today's session. You have to focus on constantly learning and constantly, skilling up your abilities to perform, because the industry moves very fast. So you have to make sure that, you're keeping up and you're keeping your learning going. Typically, when you look at an engineer, one of the biggest commonalities we see in most engineers is there's a high amount of curiosity. They want to learn, they want to understand, they want to see what's the next big thing out there, and they want to learn. They want to go learn so that they can go solve problems. So most software engineers are, generally good problem solvers because they want to learn new skills and then go apply those skills to solve problems that can help, the customers of the software they're going to go build.
Okay, thank you very much. So, to the next question, what's the average salary of a software engineer?
This is a good one. So the average salary, I think, varies very widely. Uh, it varies widely by country, by experience, by the type of company you're looking at. I actually had, maybe if I can start sharing a little bit. I actually have put together some links for you folks. So once we're done with the presentation, we can share this out afterwards. But basically, things like uh, Glassdoor or PayScale have good links that you can look to see, average software engineer pay scale by country. So, for example, I can tell you in the US, the average software engineer salary is about 100 to 110K, so $110,000. I was looking up because I know we're doing this in Africa, and then specifically maybe a lot of the audience is from Nigeria. So like there are numbers available. I just don't know how trustworthy they are, so I didn't want to quote them. But if you search on Google, you'll find plenty of good references on what the pay scale is. Um, like I said, it varies very widely by country, the number of years of experience, the kind of experience you have, and the type of company or the type of role you're applying to. So if a role is high in demand and has low supply of engineers, the pay scale will be higher. If a role is low in demand and high in supply, pay scale will be lower, right? So in some senses, it kind of has a demand and supply notion as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So I read your story about like how you left Microsoft to enter Google. Like I was so inspired. Like could you share a, the story about your journey from Microsoft to Google? Like how you were able to accomplish that?
For sure. Yeah, I can share a little bit in terms of, how I got started and how we continue to, at least in my case, continue to stay and evolve at a company like Microsoft and move forward. So, like if you actually, do read some of my LinkedIn blogs, I started my career in my own company. I had my own startup. We were kind of building software, applications for, different customers and clients back in India. I am originally from India, so that's where that company was. And 5 or 6 years into it, I was like, hey, I should go, work at a larger company and see, what that experience is like. Maybe it'll teach me something more about scale. Because one of the things that was, really cool about Microsoft at that time was Microsoft was a big company. We had lots of customers, lots of scale. So I wanted to learn that because in my own startup, I wasn't getting exposed to it directly. So I went and interviewed, got through, got into Microsoft. And then during my interview, they asked me questions on once you do well in the interview, they gave you choices, like just like team matching these days. They gave you choices of which teams you wanted to join. So I had options of choosing games, education, and communication software. Those were the three choices. I was definitely passionate towards games, so I had an inherent passion towards gaming. So I chose the gaming group. So I started in games in Microsoft. This is again back in India. Which was part of the Xbox group. So that's how my journey began in Xbox. I chose to say, hey, I'm gonna go work on gaming. So we spent a couple of years working on gaming platforms. Building a multiplayer platform for Xbox. That was leveraged in our web and messenger gaming ecosystems. Around that time, we had started working on console-related areas, so Xbox 360 related areas. So that's where I transitioned into. So I don't know, maybe a good learning I've had in my Microsoft career is ballpark every 1.5 to 2 years, I would go make a change to learn something new. So I did a year and a half of doing multiplayer and doing some web work. Then I switched over to work on avatars. Avatars are these cartoon characters that represent your identity on Xbox. So I did that for a couple of years. Then I moved over to do what is called smart glass, which was device connectivity. So you could play a game on your TV and have your mobile device be used as a companion device. So we built the platform for that. And then a couple of years after that, I moved outside of Xbox to, the commerce focused group. So we built, store platforms. So we built abilities through which, consumers can buy e-commerce goods from Xbox and Microsoft. So maybe the meta point for my Microsoft journey being a lot of focus on every X period of time. The period might vary for individual people. For me, ballpark happened to be every 18 months to 24 months. I changed something, even though it was internal to the company, to go learn something new. And that was one benefit I thought of a big company like Microsoft. that you can go learn something new even within the same company and not have to leave the company outright. So that was one learning, good switching, so you can learn new skills, new avenues, new aspects of, what Microsoft is. The second one, which was a good learning over time, was this notion that I think you asked for earlier, of, I focused initially a lot on career growth. I want to get promoted. I want to get promoted to the next level. Most companies have a ladder system. They'll have levels that you can climb up, which give you more money, more scope, and potentially you can have more impact. So I was a lot more focused initially on how can I grow the fastest. Um, which over time, I realized, I write about this in my blog as well, was probably helpful because I knew nothing else. So it was more like it's a good motivation. It drives you forward. But I think over time, I realized that it's probably more important to focus on how you can have more impact rather than how you can have more titles. So I think, about, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, I think I pivoted a lot more to focus on how can I drive more impact, irrespective of what level I'm at, what title I'm at, what company I'm at. Am I actually causing a difference to the customers I'm building software for? So that was a good learning, in terms of, how can I go have more impact. And I would say that's what led me to join Google, because when I joined Google, cloud was in its early stages of being, a competitor in the market. So I felt like it was a good opportunity to go, join at a time when we're starting out to get to a level of scale. And Google has always been reputable for, a level of scale that
Sorry for
not.
the network glitch.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me, Fulaseva? Did we lose you? Maybe. Hey, Fulaseva.
All right. Sorry for the network glitch.
No worries.
So you talk about gaming, like you're so interested in gaming. So what would be your hobby? What are your hobbies outside of work? I'm so sure Xbox,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
so
yeah,
what
yeah,
are your
definitely.
hobbies?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think it helps if you have a passion towards that area, because it kind of makes you spend even more time and energy on making sure you can do well at work as well.
Okay. So all right. So what advice would you give someone trying to pursue a career? software engineering as a beginner, like
Mhm.
the beginner from start?
Yeah,
So what
I would say,
advice?
I don't know, maybe three things. One, uh, continue to skill up, continue to look into the areas that you're interested in, and see if you can apply that interest or passion to some form of uh, learning or some form of actual engineering experience. For example, if you feel like you're interested in gaming, go build a game, like learn some game programming, go build a game, see how it works, show it to your friends, see how it functions. Alternatively, same example, if you're interested in gaming, go look on GitHub. There are plenty of gaming projects that are being built out, using a set of developers from across the world. Leverage that and see how you can learn. So I think that notion of skilling up is important. And skilling up is an important term because it applies to things. Have some interest area that you feel strongly towards, and then applying it to some notion of building something that gives you that experience, but also solves a problem, so has impact because you're trying to build something for someone else or for yourself if you want to apply it to yourself. To say, hey, this is what I'm doing. So that would be one, skill up. Second, I would say is persistence. Like I see a lot of Emmanuel's posts where, depending on, how you progress in your career, sometimes it becomes really hard. You could go through, I don't know, if you're talking about getting jobs, you could go through a set of interviews and you don't clear them, or you're not happy in your job, and you want to go move to somewhere else, but there aren't any enough opportunities. So I think persistence is key. Making sure that you time yourself, making sure that you don't give up, making sure that you keep trying, have positive energy, and push towards the goals you want and focus on the goals. There will be challenges, there will be problems, there will be things you'll have to face, but don't give up. So persistence would be advice number two. And the third one is keep learning. Like I'll keep saying it, as many times as I can. Keep learning, keep finding ways to, learn new things, explore new areas, even the ones you probably aren't very strong in. Even if you've never done programming in your life, try it. It'll probably give you some learning. And then see if you like it or not. If you like it, keep going. If you don't, try something else. So this notion of constant learning would be really, really good for somebody early in their career.
All right, thank you very much. So you talk about persistence, that we should keep
Mhm.
pushing and keep applying, but then you can be applying and be making the same mistake. So
Mhm.
do you have any tip, like any job search strategy tip
Mhm.
or strategies that one can take up to increase one's chances of getting jobs online?
Yeah, I think there's plenty, and I think there's maybe a couple of things I would say here. The reason I'm looking the other side is, we actually have a pretty good link. I'll share it on the Facebook live feed so everybody else can see it, where we do actually provide as part of Google, step-by-step guidance on how to help students and early in career folks, to be able to think through that process of, how to apply, how to learn, how to go through the process, and then how to handle rejections, as they say. If you try and it doesn't go through, so it gives you a lot of interesting step-by-step guidance, which I think is useful. We've used it quite a lot, even internally. Meaning, like if I just walk through some of those steps, it talks through how to create a resume. Like what are some things that are
Okay.
useful to be putting in your resume? What are some things that you should call out? What are some things that you probably should keep out? How to make a good resume is one of those steps. Um, then gives you a sense of preparation. So, depending on the kind of role you're applying to, even within software engineering, how do you prepare for some of those roles, right? So, like if you're doing software engineering, let's say if you don't have a background in computer programming, how can you learn so that you can apply for a job and at least get qualified to get into an interview? So, it gives you a lot of learning courses and programs, to kind of skill up so you can get into interview. And then it gives you a lot of good guidance on how the interview processes do work. Now, that link is specific to Google, but I think the general guidance still applies. In terms of the general process at most companies is the same, which is, you apply for a job based on a list of, job searches you find. You will typically get through into some form of interview calls. You go through the interview process. If you do well, you get to an offer stage, and that's how you start. So that's one approach. A tip I would give is, if you know people in companies that you're trying to apply to, use the concept of referral. So an employee at a company can refer you. It typically helps in terms of having a faster response time because it goes through directly to the recruiting team. It also helps create more transparency because the person who's referring you does get a little bit more information in terms of was this person considered, if they were quote unquote rejected, what were some of those grounds, etc. So, like, I think they'll get a little bit more information in terms of what's happening, so they can share that with you. Um, the other one is build your network. Like, I think in today's world, you have a lot of opportunity to go build your network through areas like LinkedIn, like connect with people, see what they're writing about. Because there's a lot of people who are sharing their experiences on what's working for them, what's not working for them. So, for example, if you see on LinkedIn, you will find plenty of content talking about, hey, I got through an interview and this is what I did that helped me, or I did not get through. Here's my learning. I probably should have done X, Y, Z better. So, in a world of social networking, I think we can all learn a lot from each other because that information is, relatively easily available.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, the next question.
Mhm.
Where can our listeners find you? Maybe your social media handle or a website or so.
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn, I think, is probably the easiest way. I think, a lot of folks, including myself, are generally pretty active on LinkedIn. So you can definitely find, a lot of, good people who are willing to help, a lot of good content, that helps you in your own careers and jobs. I can tell you, I spend a decent amount of time on LinkedIn myself. Even though I've had, a good amount of time in the industry, I still feel like I can learn quite a lot. So I do spend a good amount of time, on LinkedIn trying to learn from other people in terms of what they're experiencing. So I think that would be a good one. If you're actually trying to maybe practice programming, there's plenty of good avenues to do that as well. So if you're actually trying to write code and you're like, hey, I want to practice writing code in different forms, um, you can go on GitHub, you can go on Lead Code and practice coding that way. They also have a sense of community, so you can actually pair up with other people in that. But yeah, specific to me, if you want to find me, connect with me on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way.
Okay. So we connect to all right. Thank you so much, Ankur. I really learned so much about how to get started as a software engineer. Though I'm not interested. I'm more interested in design aspects. So
Mhm.
I hope we all learned something too. So if you have any question, kindly drop them in the chat section.
Mhm.
Do you have anyone that has any question for our guests?
Yeah, I like Emmanuel's comment where he said, "The more skills you learn, the more money you tend to earn." I think that's true. The more you learn, the more opportunities I think you'll get, and usually means that you learn more money.
Okay, that's true. All right. So since there is no question, I have one personal question for you. What does failure mean to you? What does it mean to be a failure or to
Yeah,
have
that's a
failed
that's a
in life?
really good one, and I'm glad you asked it for the sake because I think it's one that a lot of people try to avoid. In my mind, failure is the best learning. Like, I think you should fail a lot more than what normally people think about. Like, I think failure is probably your best way to learn. Because without failure, you get used to this notion of what you're doing is correct, what you're doing is appropriate, and you tend to get complacent, you tend to get comfortable, you tend to feel like you know everything about what you want to go do. So, in my mind, failure is the best form of learning. When you fail in anything, whether that's a project you were doing, or whether you were going for an interview that didn't go so well, or you were trying to build something that didn't necessarily happen. I think we learn the most when we fail. So I think it's important to fail. I would argue, especially early in career, people should fail a lot more because that's how you will learn. That's how you learn to handle the hardships and handle things that are difficult to contemplate, and then come back stronger. So if anything, I think failure makes you stronger. So you'll actually apply it to yourself and be like, what can I do so that I don't get disturbed by failure? So in some senses, I think failure is the best form of learning. Um, it also makes you uncomfortable. I always say this. If you read my blog, I talk about it quite a bit in terms of learn to be uncomfortable in whichever space you are. If you find yourself getting comfortable, that is probably the time to make a change. So if you feel like everything around you is easy, simple, you know how this works, it feels comfortable. It's probably time to make a change. Make yourself uncomfortable because it'll make you learn more. It'll probably make you fail, but that's how you continue learning and growing.
All right. So failure makes one learn more.
Mhm.
You talked about blog.
Mhm.
Can you share us the link to your blog
Yes,
on
it's
LinkedIn?
just on LinkedIn. So if you actually go to LinkedIn, it'll basically show you all the different blogs I write. So if you look at my
Okay.
profile on LinkedIn, I'll send you a link on the Facebook Live. So if you go there, you will basically see. I use LinkedIn as my blogging platform, so I do write articles on LinkedIn. Some of the ones I know you had mentioned, Fuller Saver, you were reading. So from that perspective, you can definitely go and read about some of those there.
Okay, thank you very much. So you talked about trends, that trends in software engineering, industries are meant to move to cloud, like they started moving to cloud, and that people should take up machine learning and AI, and also automation, because the trend keeps changing day by day and all. So we also talked about job search strategy,
Mhm.
that we should use referral concept, that if you know anyone in any industry, if you have an insider in any industry you want to apply for, that you should use the person's referral this thing and recommendations to
Yeah.
get the job faster, and then to have a sure higher chance of getting the job. And then building LinkedIn network, talked
Mhm.
about that one too.
Yep.
So I talked about resume,
Mhm.
tips for resume that we should
Mhm.
try to improve on them. So thank you very much. We really learned so much. So our audience, do you have any question for the last time? Our guests. Does anybody have any question? Type them in the comments and in the chat section.
Yeah, I'm seeing some questions. There's one from
Uh,
Cooley which says, "What goes into software engineering?" I'm not quite sure what that one particularly means. I'm going to skip past it. Maybe Cooley, if you can rephrase and get a sense of maybe what that question means. I'll answer the second one, where someone said, "For starters, what programming languages can one start with?" This is one where it really is quite a lot of options available. You can pick from a variety of languages. Java is a pretty popular one. If you look purely from a popularity perspective, Java is probably the most popular programming language. JavaScript is another one which definitely has picked up a lot of explicit focus over the past 5 or 10 years. So yeah, I would say if you wanted to pick, those are probably a good initial starting point. But there's plenty of others. You could do C sharp, you could do C++, you could do Golang. So lots and lots of options available. From a job search perspective, I think most companies have gotten to a point where they're not necessarily as explicitly focused on what language do you know. Because if you know any programming language, it is typically very easy for you to learn another language. So in most companies, at least the larger companies, they put less emphasis on do you know the language my company uses. They put more emphasis on do you know how to program. So yeah, if you're somebody starting out, pick a language of choice, pick something you feel is appropriate. You probably couldn't go wrong in terms of the language you pick. But yeah, Java and JavaScript could be initial recommendations for sure.
all right. Do you have any other question?
There is one more question, I think, from Emmanuel, which says, "How can I show professionals in software engineering what I am currently learning while I practice how to code? I believe I gain a higher chance of getting a job if a professional sees that I am an unrelenting learner." That is absolutely true. So I think that's a really good point of if there is visibility of the work you are doing, it's much easier for somebody to believe, that you're building it. So for example, it's a very common trend in resumes right now to have a link, for example, to your GitHub profile. So GitHub is an open source construct where you can put your code online, and it can be accessible to other people. So basically think of it as a community where you can put your source code online and other people can contribute to it. So if you go to GitHub and if you're contributing all your code there, it's a very easy way for somebody who is looking into your profile or just looking for people, to go see how actively you've been coding. They can actually go look at your code, which is generally, a much better signal than just, an hour's worth of interview. So that GitHub signal can definitely be useful. Alternatively, if you're building projects that are being used by end customers, putting links to that also is helpful. So, for example, let's say if you had time and you built a website for some small company in your country, put that link. Like, we want to see what did you make. We can then debate whether it was a useful demonstration of your skills, and then we can look at what kind of experiences you've built. So GitHub or any other projects you've done that are publicly available, feel free to share those on your resume. They're a super positive addition to your profile.
All right. There's another question here. What is your greatest motivation?
What's my greatest motivation? My greatest
Yeah.
motivation is to continue learning. Like I said, that's definitely my theme of the day. I definitely feel like if I get into a situation one fine day, I realize I'm not learning anything new. I feel like I get demotivated, and then I tend to find something, to go learn something new. So if you look at all the changes I've made in my career, they're all driven by this motivation to continue to learn more. How can I learn? That's one. There's another one would be, uh, am I making a difference to someone? So like whether it is through building software, like are we actually helping someone, achieve a task easier, or are we helping someone achieve something they've never achieved before from a product perspective, or in my role, people perspective as well, because I lead a group of people. So in some cases, my motivation also comes from growing people, of like, am I getting someone else to grow and getting that motivation and getting that satisfaction and seeing them grow into better versions of themselves. So it applies both to products as well as to people.
All right. Do you have any other question? No, I guess not. So, since there's no question, I want to appreciate you and Pooh. So, I was really, really. Sorry. Sorry.
Hello everyone. Hello, it's great to be here. I want to appreciate Ankur for coming on board today. Thank you. Thank you, Shewa, for such a wonderful section. I hope everyone can hear me. So far it has been really exciting, and for those who are just starting out their journey in software engineering, we are giving you an opportunity to build up your software skill. Yeah, through a program called the Skill Up program, and the Skill Up program aim to train youth across Africa with digital skill and connect them to the future of work. This means after 16 weeks of learning, we will connect you to a job opportunity where you can develop your skill. And this is to support Africa to ensure that there is continuous growth and work with good pay is available to all. And this is done through So, hello, can you still hear me?
Hmm. Yes.
Oh, great. So this program is to connect youth across Africa to the future of works. And the amazing part of this is that after 12 weeks of learning, you will be engaging in projects which will be shown out to people. And then you will get an opportunity to intern with various startups and even top companies. And the amazing part of this is the program is totally free. Um, it costs some amount before, but we made it completely free to everyone. So for you to register, we are putting up the participation link so anyone can register for the program. So when you have, if you have someone out there who is interested in starting a career in software engineering, so tell them to register via ye.org.ng/skillup. I will go again, ye.org.ng/skillup, and then a track called software engineering or web development should be chosen there. And one amazing thing is this, let me break it here. You will have opportunity to be vetted by top professionals working in top companies like Google, like Microsoft, and they are all ready to ensure that your growth is guaranteed. And this is one of our major contributions to ensure that the future of work in Africa is secured. I want to say thank you for your support, Anchor. I want to say thank you to the Yi community. I want to say a big thank you to Shewa for anchoring a wonderful event. Sincerely, it's amazing. Yeah, so it's on the screen now. To start a career, just visit https ye.org.ng/skill up program. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Bye.